Here's the thing. Most people are going to disagree with what I'm about to say. And honestly, that's fine. Your morning routine isn't about productivity. It's not about discipline, cold showers, or dragging yourself out of bed at 5 a.m. before the rest of the world wakes up. All of that? Noise. Just noise layered on top of something way more interesting. What your morning is actually doing, Neil, right now, whether you realize it or not, Neum is setting a neurochemical baseline that your entire emotional experience for the rest of the day runs on, and almost everyone is getting it completely wrong. I want to be upfront with you before we go any further. When I started looking into why some people seem to move through their days with this natural sense of ease, while others feel like they're fighting themselves by 10 in the morning, I expected to find something complicated, some deeply buried psychological pattern, a trauma response, something dramatic. What I found instead was kind of startlingly simple, and also genuinely frustrating, because it meant that for a long time, I was doing ordinary things in the wrong order, and then wondering why my mood felt totally out of my hands. So let's talk about the myth. There's a myth sitting at the center of basically every morning routine article, every productivity podcast, every self-help chapter on waking up. And it goes like this. Happiness is about mindset. If you wake up and choose to think positively, if you just decide to have a good attitude, your day will reflect that back at you. That's not how your brain works. Not even close. Your brain, in those first 60 to 90 minutes after waking, isn't waiting for your attitude. Research published in Molecular Psychiatry shows that cortisol naturally spikes 50 to 75% within 30 minutes of waking. Scientists call it the cortisol awakening response. It's your brain preparing for the day. Completely automatic. Happens whether you want it to or not. And here's what most people have never actually heard. How you spend those first 60 to 90 minutes either works with that natural process or completely derails it. The myth sticks around because it feels true. Attitude is real. Mindset matters. To be yin yet. I'm not saying it doesn't, but the research is saying something more specific than that. Certain physical and behavioral inputs in the morning directly control the neurochemistry that makes happiness even possible. You can't willpower your way around dopamine. You can't just choose your way to serotonin. But you can trigger them. Deliberately. And that's kind of the whole point here. So let me walk you through what actually works. New. And more importantly, why. Habit 1, stop checking your phone. I want to start here, because this is the one that surprises people most. Most people think checking their phone in the morning is a harmless habit. Maybe a little indulgent, but basically neutral. The research disagrees. Pretty strongly, actually. A 2024 study published in Psychoneuroendocrinology measured cortisol levels in 2 groups. One that checked their phones within 5 minutes of waking, and one that waited 60 or more minutes. The early phone group showed 31% higher cortisol at 90 minutes post-wake, plus self-reported increases in anxiety and feeling rushed. Think about what that actually means. Before you've had breakfast, before a single real stressor has entered your day, your stress hormone has already been artificially spiked. Checking your phone amplifies your natural cortisol awakening response. Instead of a gradual, healthy peak, those notifications create artificial spikes stacked right on top of your natural rhythm. And that messes up your energy curve for the rest of the day. And here's the part that genuinely got me. Your phone doesn't even need to be on. A study on what researchers called the brain drain effect found that the mere presence of a smartphone reduces available cognitive capacity. Quote, measured by working memory and fluid intelligence tests, which is wild when you think about it. The device sitting face down on your nightstand, completely silent, is already quietly consuming mental bandwidth. Your brain is quietly allocating resources toward not checking it. So, what do you do instead? Give that first hour to something that feeds the system rather than taxes it. Habit 2, get natural light in your eyes. This one sounds almost too simple, but the mechanism behind it is honestly one of the more elegant things I've come across in all of this. When natural light hits your eyes, no sunglasses, it triggers a chain reaction deep in the brain. Photons signal the suprachiasmatic nucleus, which is your brain's master clock for circadian rhythm. That releases cortisol and dopamine, waking the brain and sharpening alertness. But it also sets a timer for melatonin to release 14 to 16 hours later, your natural sleep signal. So morning light isn't just about waking up. It's programming when you fall asleep tonight. One input, enormous downstream effects. A study in The Lancet found that natural light increases serotonin production, improving overall mental well-being. Serotonin is what most antidepressants are designed to influence, and you're getting a version of that effect for free, just by stepping outside. Even 5 to 10 minutes is enough to start optimizing your neurochemistry for the day. Habit 3, move your body. Any way at all okay? So here's where I want to push back on something. The fitness industry has convinced a lot of people that exercise has to be intense and structured to actually do anything for your brain. That's not what the neuroscience shows. Research on morning exercise links mood improvements to increased circulating levels of endorphins, dopamine, and serotonin. But the timing matters too. Morning exercise appears particularly useful for circadian rhythm synchronization, which affects basically everything else downstream throughout the day. And you don't need to run 5 miles. Any aerobic movement, walking, dancing, biking, whatever, can increase endorphin and serotonin production. A 10-minute walk counts. It genuinely counts. People who wait for some future version of themselves with a perfect gym routine are completely missing the point. Movement is a neurochemical input. A small input is still an input. Psychologists also recommend exercise to their patients because it creates a real sense of accomplishment. That part is underrated. You did something effortful before the day made its first demand on you. That small win compounds in ways you might not expect. Habit 4, drink water before anything else. Your brain spent the night doing remarkable things. Processing memory, clearing metabolic waste, regulating hormones, all without water. By the time you wake up, you're already in mild dehydration, and your mood is one of the first things to take a hit. Research in the British Journal of Nutrition found that rehydration immediately improves cognitive performance and reduces feelings of anxiety and fatigue. Not gradually, immediately. That effect on anxiety is worth sitting with for a second. Kneel. Because a lot of people start their mornings feeling vaguely on edge. This low-level anxiety they chalk up to stress or just their personality. Sometimes it's just dehydration. Water jumpstarts your metabolism, clears metabolic waste, and gives your brain what it needs to actually produce neurotransmitters. You can't make dopamine without the right building blocks. You can't make serotonin either. Put a glass of water next to your bed tonight. Drink it before your feet touch the floor. That's genuinely it. The threshold is that low. Habit 5, practice gratitude. But not the way you think. This one has a reputation problem, I know. Gratitude journaling sounds soft. It sounds like the kind of advice you'd find on a motivational poster, not a neuroscience paper. But I want you to actually sit with what the research found, because it surprised me. Gratitude does something different from general mindfulness. A study from Indiana University found that people who practiced gratitude showed increased activity in the prefrontal cortex, quote, the part of your brain responsible for planning, decision-making, and emotional regulation. That's not a subtle effect. That's the exact part of your brain you need working well when stress hits, when a hard conversation happens, when the afternoon falls apart. Neuroscientists have found that gratitude triggers the release of dopamine and serotonin. And here's what actually got me. Gratitude has a long-lasting effect on the brain. Regular practice can structurally reshape neural pathways, breaking old connections and forming new ones. You're not just feeling better in the moment. You're slowly changing the default architecture of how your brain processes experience. Early gratitude research by Emmons and McCullough found that people who wrote down 5 things they were grateful for each week were more optimistic, exercised more, and had fewer physical illness symptoms. 3 things in the morning. That's the minimum dose, not an essay, not a structured reflection. 3 specific things you're genuinely grateful for, written by hand. That's it. Habit 6, set a single intention for the day. There's a detail in this last one that most people skip over, and I don't think we should skip it. Checking email, your calendar, or a to-do list right after waking immediately puts your brain into panic mode. That's not a wellness blogger's opinion, or that's a clinical psychologist describing what reactive mode actually does to your neurological state before you've even had breakfast. The alternative isn't about being organized, it's about being deliberate. Research from 2022 found that early morning behaviors develop into habits that improve health and quality of life over time, quote, and that the emotions you feel early in the morning influence your mood through the rest of the day. Setting an intention isn't the same as writing a to-do list. A to-do list is reactive. It tells you what the world needs from you. An intention is the opposite. Or it's a decision about who you want to be today. Calm, present, patient, whatever it is. One sentence, one word even, but it anchors the morning in something you actually chose, rather than something that just happened to you. Research shows morning habits influence cognitive performance, emotional regulation, and stress levels all day. A consistent routine reduces decision fatigue, giving your brain a direction it doesn't have to keep refinding. Every micro decision in the morning costs something. Intention reduces those costs. Here's what I keep coming back to after all of this. The idea that happiness is a mindset, more, that you just choose it through attitude, more, isn't entirely wrong, but it's missing the underlying mechanism. Your mind runs on chemistry. That chemistry isn't fixed. It responds to inputs, specifically and predictably, in ways science has now mapped with real precision. None of these 6 habits cost money. No gym membership, no productivity app, no supplement, no pre-dawn alarm. What they require is understanding why they work, because understanding why actually changes how you follow through. You stop doing these things because someone said they were good ideas. You start doing them because you understand what they're doing inside you at a biological level. And suddenly, it feels less like discipline and more like something obvious. A 2025 study in BMJ Mental Health looked at 6 markers of feeling good: depression levels, anxiety symptoms, happiness, life satisfaction, sense of purpose, social connectedness. More and across all 6, mornings consistently outperformed late-night hours. The morning isn't just a time of day. It's a neurological window that opens once every 24 hours. What you do with it isn't about perfecting some routine. It's about finally understanding that your brain is listening every single morning, and it's waiting to hear what you want from it.